didn't just grow, we grew with you. Through weddings and wins, through heartbreaks and hustle, through late nights, early mornings, and everything in between. Because it was never just radio. It's lifestyle, it's culture, it's connection. More music, less noise, more feeling, more life. This isn't just a station. This is your rhythm. Rhythm FM, growing with you everywhere. From your very first day in secondary school to campus dreams that kept you awake at night.
Alright, City of Lagos, welcome to Dear Louie on Rhythm 93.7 FM. I'm Louie, of course, and today on Dear Louie, we're having a conversation about life after disability. But we're also talking about everything that comes with, rebuilding your life, finding your voice, and discovering purpose in a reality you may not have originally planned for. Our guest today is someone who has turned her personal experience into advocacy, creating space for conversations around accessibility, inclusion, and the rights of people living with disabilities. Joining us is Ndifreke Andrew Essien, founder and executive director of Fake Foundation. Ndifreke, thank you so much for joining me on Dear Louie. How are you doing today? Hello? Okay, as I mentioned earlier today, we're talking about life after disability, rebuilding your life, finding your voice, and discovering purpose in a reality that you may not have, originally planned for. Hi, Ndifreke, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, everyone. This is Frankie. It's a pleasure to be on air. Good evening.
You sound like a vibe. Love it. Hi, good evening.
It is a vibe.
I love it. All right now. So you've been a strong voice for change, accessibility and inclusion. But behind every advocate is a personal story, right, that has shaped that drive. So before we talk about the work that you do today, which of course is so good and very important, take us back a bit, who was Ndifreke before the whole world got to know you in this space? What were your passions driving you at the time? So basically, let's start from Genesis.
Okay, so thank God Genesis is not the creation of the world. Okay, so hi everyone. Growing up was relatively the same experiences everyone had. Hit my milestones, went to nursery school, brought up in Port Harcourt, still based here in Port Harcourt. Did my nursery and primary school here. I did my secondary school in a federal school in Akwa Ibom State 101, that's a court of Town. And then I started my university education in University of Calabar. So it was in the course of studying that I had a road traffic accident and sustained spinal cord injury, fracture of the spine that resulted in multiple surgeries and all long story, and having to currently use a wheelchair for mobility. So the Freki then and the Freki now, really not different. Still kind of in the same space, but just expressing purpose a bit differently. So while I was in school, I was studying medicine and surgery, but currently the space that I operate in that light is public health. So it's kind of, like I said, one
still
is
on the same path, sort of. Okay. But then again, when this incident occurred, at what point did you begin to realize that life was going to take a very different path from maybe what you had originally planned?
Okay, so it's actually quite easy to answer that. So nobody wakes up in the morning thinking that anything would happen. I mean, I was in school basically studying for one of the many professional exams that medical students write. And we're there during the holiday, and I just stepped out briefly into town to take a break from studying, and then this happened. But definitively, I think when I realized that things were not the same was in the course, because the story is a bit long. And
no, let's get into it. That's why we're here. You can just give us a little something. We just need a backstory.
Well, backstory. Okay, so had the accident. It was during the holiday, and the hospitals were on strike. But then I was in the hospital space already, so it was easy for me to reach out to one or two persons to come out and attend to me to see what was happening. So to answer your question, we went from Calabar back to Port Harcourt, from Port Harcourt to Lagos, and all of this flat on my back because I couldn't sit at all. And then from Lagos, this took time, so it's not like it's one deal. So the accident happened in December. I think by the time I traveled for surgery in Israel, it was March, somewhere in March. So all of this was still on my back and unable to sit, unable to move, unable to do anything. So I think when I kind of realized that the prognosis was bad was when I got to Lagos. When I got to Lagos, the key consultant there said that he said some words that maybe to understand that it wasn't just spinal shock as I initially thought, that it was a bit more after the CT scans and MRIs. And he said something. He said, I would rather not go into your back. I would rather we find a way to get you out of the country. And I was like, okay, is that intense, right? But even at that, it did feel like, I was like, okay, fine. And then we started struggling to raise monies. Human beings behave the way human beings behaved. At university, you know who's on your side and who's not for you.
Yes.
Those that advised my father to focus on his other children. There were so many things. But anyway, the main point, I guess, was when the doctor in Tel Aviv came to do his review to explain what he wanted to do. And he kept asking questions like, where have you been since the accident? And I'm like, yeah, I was in the hospital. Now, he wasn't understanding that because he kept saying, this is something that happens, and then they lift you to the theater. And I said, I get it. I told him, I understand. However, my country is my country. We don't have good health systems. So it didn't quite happen like that. He was not even still understanding. In fact, he thought that I had been at home since. And I was like, I went from accident to hospital, and I've been in the hospital, many hospitals since. And he couldn't still understand why nobody did anything immediately. I was like, can we get past that? Because I was trying to solve a problem that is a health system issue. So he now said, okay, that all he could do for me was to fix my back so that I could learn to sit again. I think that's when I realized that, okay, it is really bad. And then he tried to explain the medical procedure. My mom was with me. And, my mom went to cry, be a human. But I didn't really cry like that. I just understood that, okay, this is not me coming for them to just fix what was not right, and then I'll just come back and continue, But even at that, I was like, fine, we got it done. Then I now came back home. After a while, I now came back home. And in coming back, I realized that Nigeria wasn't ready, When I was over there, I went out, I saw other people, life was flowing, really no issues. Transport was, you could go anywhere. And then I came back home and, when you've been on the other side where you've never really considered how a person maybe who's on a wheelchair is functioning on a daily, what the daily activity may be like, what a person with a hearing impairment would be experiencing. And then all of a sudden, I came back to my reality, my space, and saw that, and it all, well, I knew, the reality hit that, okay, this is different, and Nigeria is not even ready, so.
All right, so in all of this, okay, sorry, I thought you were done. I apologize. Please carry on.
And then going back to school and then being told that, I know things, we can't go back to where we were, we have to refigure it out, outrightly. So those were some of the instances that made me to realize that, okay, fine, there has to be coming back to think or to re-strategize or to refigure this out. So those were kind of some of those kind of moments in the course of the day.
All right. So in all of this, did you at least allow yourself grieve? Did you give yourself permission to grieve the life or expectations that you previously had? Because going into school and wanting to study medicine and surgery is a big deal. You were reading for an exam and you said, you know what, let me even catch a break. And then that happened. And you said it's been from hospital to hospital to hospital and then coming back and all of that.
I think one thing people may not realize is that as you called it, grieving, because loss is involved. It doesn't really. There's no end to it.
Oh,
I don't
wow.
know. How to,
Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense. Like, you don't get over it. Because no matter how much you want to get over it, a human being will just come up from somewhere and try to be a nuisance in your life that day. So at every point, there's always that process where something, someone, some phrase wants to remind you that, okay, this is where you were, this is what it is, this is what it is not. So I would, and I'm saying this because sometimes people set themselves up for a lot of mental stress, as it were. So I tell people that the best approach to this, and really for anyone, is take it one day at a time, because every day comes and presents with its own, its own challenge. If you want to say, okay, I have overcome, and you're like, okay, I'm on the top. If something happens and you find yourself down, there's a tendency to not be able to find the strength to come up again. But when you understand that every day, give yourself grace, that if something happens and you feel bad about a thing, you are allowed to feel bad. I don't know, people don't give people permission to. They just feel like, you should have gotten over it. And it will never, and I'm saying it with my full chest, that you may never ever, you can do, the acceptance, you go through the stages, but you must give yourself daily graces, understanding that if a day happens where it's just upside down, right? Maybe your body operating, or you're feeling emotionally stressed, you're trying to do stuff and everything is just give yourself the grace to be able to feel how you want to feel. The most important thing is, don't stay there. Don't stay there. You must insist on getting yourself back up and out and able to refire. So that is one thing that has helped me, because when you tell somebody, okay, when you finish, you come back, you're not doing that person any justice or any service, because what happens on bad days, the person will now start feeling guilty for feeling bad. And and this is me saying this to everyone, you come out, you feel put together, but if at any point in the course of the day, somebody just carelessly, because human beings sometimes, especially those around, you can forget and get very careless about some things we say, and then it hits you in some way. It's okay to, feel some way about it. If someone close to you, you can even address it and then move, as opposed to, are you still there? I thought by now. Don't do that to yourself, and don't let anybody do that to you, right? You, in your own right, you have every right to be able to nurse, understand a feeling, an emotion, deal with it, and come out from it, and then go on. Because when you do that, you are better. You're better for it, right? As opposed to when everybody has given you 2 months to get over it, and then you now find yourself many years later, maybe hung up on something that just came up, and they're like, are we still there? You know. So this is me saying that give yourself grace to, in case anything happens where you thought, I thought I had dealt with this, you know, and then it still comes. Just allow yourself to process, learn, and move.
I love it. Love it. I love the fact that you said grace is important, especially in times like this. But we've got a bill to pay, and of course, I've got many questions for you to answer. So we'll be back in a bit.
To that first job interview that changed everything. From traffic on 3rd Mainland Bridge to quiet midnight thoughts under an open sky, there has always been one frequency riding with you. Rhythm 93.7 FM didn't just play music, we scored your moments. When you celebrated, we turned it up. When you stumbled, we lifted your spirit. When the nation held its breath, we stayed present, informing, connecting, caring. Across Lagos, Port Harcourt, Benin, Abuja, and every heartbeat in between. One rhythm, one sound, one family. And now, beyond borders, streaming across continents, connecting Nigerians in the diaspora and global listeners searching for the sound of home. We didn't just grow, we grew with you. Through weddings and wins, through heartbreaks and hustle, through late nights, early mornings, and everything in between.
About life after a disability, and I've got in the Freke Andrew Asian. She's a founder and executive director of Faith Care Foundation. Are you still there?
Yes, I am.
All right, so let's get into physical recovery now. We often talk about physical recovery, but adjusting to a new reality is deeply emotional too. What are the hardest parts of navigating both the practical and emotional adjustments in those days, in those early days, rather?
Okay, so I think for me, in the early days, it was the overwhelmingly lack of information. There was no information anyway. So instead, you have people asking you, people that you feel that are supposed to be experts, like doctors and things like that, asking you questions. And I'm like, I'm coming to you for answers. Why are you asking me questions? Especially when I came back home, So there was a lot of misinformation, no information, having to do a lot of things a bit differently. So I knew that I needed information to be able to navigate the new space, because it's a new space physically and especially physically. So what I did was I got information. I went to the internet to get information, because people think that everybody on wheelchair has the same kind of disability or impairment, but not necessarily. It's not true. There's no blanket thing, and a lot of impairments, even for instance spinal cord injury, different levels, they all have different presentations. So it was important for me to get information and knowledge to be able to navigate the new space that I found myself in. So I went to the internet to get information. I joined a lot of fora to be able to ask questions, lived experiences of persons with spinal cord injury, persons with disabilities in different spaces and different countries, just to be able to learn from their own experiences. I still remember writing a letter. I don't even know I can't remember the lady's name. I saw her online. I now wrote her a letter, and I couldn't even believe that she mailed, and like mail or like FedEx, those things. She sent a mail of a whole lot of documentation, how to do transfers, how to do this, how to do that. I was quite impressed because I didn't expect her to do that. But this is because we went out to, instead of sitting down and feeling bad about a lot of people not having answers for me. So I went out there to look for information, and it really helped me to be able to begin to navigate, to be able to learn. I also within myself decided on some things, right? Because I feel like it's important to get your mind to a place where you have control. Well, let me explain. At that point, there's so many voices, externally and internally. Advice is everywhere. I am a Christian, born again child of God. So there's a lot of also spiritual connotations involved. The advice. So you're kind of being dragged. When I mean dragged, I mean being dragged. Not intentionally negatively, but because of what people think should be the expectation. So you're dragged about your faith. You're dragged about why you're not getting better. You're dragged about wanting more out of life. Dragged. When I mean dragged, for instance, when I decided that one thing was clear, that as I go, that I'm going to go back to school and get my degree, because I mean this was right in the middle of getting a degree, and people are saying, won't you get better first? And I kept asking, what does better look like? What do they think better looks like? Because time is not going to wait for me. I can manage to sit. I may not be able to sit for too long. I can do a few things. It's time. There's no right time. You're not understanding. You're like, won't you get better first? If I remember somebody accusing me of not going to enough crusades, that I was not active in my search for I mean drag. Not from a bad place. I mean, that's the person's understanding. So I had to kind of learn a lot of things that being reactional wasn't going to help me. So coming from a place of knowledge will be able to help me to navigate people's opinions on what they thought disability was or having an impairment looks like. So gradually, I learned many lessons. Number one was setting a goal for myself was important. I couldn't wait for my family to say, you have to do this, you have to do that. I had to agree within myself that I wanted to do those things. Why? Because when there are no people around you to rally, you have to rally yourself, up. When people are expecting you to be strong about the thing, you have to kind of decide within yourself that, okay, I want to do this. So for instance, I'd already known that I'm not going to be that girl that doesn't have a degree, right? And the degree was not going to now come and happen in my father's house where I was. So I had to step out. I had to go back to the space, begin to navigate. Even when I was told no, I went back to Calabar, was told as categorical no, don't come back. Don't come back and do nothing. At that time, I had to still come back and lick those wounds, still go back, changed university to University of Port Harcourt, where I got my first degree in human physiology, went back, got a master's in human physiology, went back and got another master's in public health.
Look at that. Love it.
I had to agree within myself first. My parents, I have a good support system. My family, amazing. My close friends, not people.
Hello, are you there? Can you hear me, please?
Those go. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I lost you for a bit. Sorry.
Okay. So, support systems, family, friends, God, the spiritual. So I had to make that settle in my mind that these are non-negotiables, right? So that when I faced the obstacles, because making a decision to go automatically clears itself. That would just be you kidding yourself. The obstacles, the realities were still there. I mean, I remember in my undergrad when I remember a lecture that we in Afrima, and the door we find the major place where I had lectures, the lab, the door, it was accessible. I never really had issues, but we had a particular lecture that had to happen in some long hall in Afrima, and it was a shock to me because I honestly didn't think that accessing that hall would be a problem. But I thought the person had put protectors that now made the door narrow. And I found myself by the window. And that was the only way I could attend that lecture because the chair couldn't pass through the door frame. So I sat to at least had my lectures to the window. It was kind of one of those first shockers. I was like, huh? So I now realized that even in your goals, your actions, you will still meet obstacles. So you still respond to it. Also, responding to human beings and people's expectations or thoughts or opinions is something that has helped me so far. And I'm saying these things because I know that someone is listening and it might help a person. It may not even be about disability or not, but just some lessons I've learned. I've learned that everybody has an opinion about what you're going through. And their opinion, most of the time, is usually shaped by, number one, the level of knowledge they have, and also shaped by their own belief systems. Now, the control you have is deciding if you want that person's opinion to weigh heavily on your own choices and your decisions, but also understanding that if you do not form an opinion, you would likely lean to those opinions that are shaped by that person's limited knowledge, or that person's vast information, or that person's belief system. So that's why I said that I had to have what will inform my choices, my decisions to go back to school at the time I did, when it looked like, are you sure it's time? Things like that, so that I can own. The other thing that helped me as well is understanding that, and I don't know how I'm going to put this, but I think I understand something, that the purpose that I have in this life, right? That using a wheelchair should not stop it. Yeah. So, and having a disability is not an excuse for just not fulfilling purpose, no matter how small. So I'm saying these things because these are a lot of things that I had to settle within myself, because sometimes we want people to ginger us, motivate us, but at the end of the day, when those voices become quiet, what is your inner voice telling you? What is your inner voice saying? If your inner voice is one that is talking you down, you likely not be able to do much, right? And when your inner voice is a lot of negativity, when you face obstacle, there's a tendency to want to give up, because honestly, obstacles till tomorrow, they are there and they are big. So physically, right, it's not been easy. There are a lot of spaces I want to go to. Like now, we have to do this over the phone, and I'm sure you know why.
Yeah.
You know exactly why. But understanding that obstacles can be navigated is one thing that has also helped me. Initially, I had to say, okay, so I don't have access, and I now step away. So I now learned that I can do two things: educate, continue to educate, advocate. And then where that space, I need that space, we figure out. So for instance, what we're doing now is a form of reasonable accommodation.
Yes.
Because the platform is important to be able to get the message out. Right. So many lessons there.
I understand. All right, very quickly, let's get into advocacy. You said a lot. We'll get into challenges real soon, but let's talk about purpose now. Was advocacy something that you always saw yourself doing, or did your experience introduce that part of yourself that you now had to explore?
Okay. So I've always known, if you hear my story, I've always known that I wanted to help other people. That's why I was studying, right? So when I found that, okay, at that time, because if I want to go back and do it, I can still do it now. But when I found out at that time that the facilities were not really there for me to be able to pursue that career path, I came back and I asked myself and prayed about it. How else can I express this deep call to still help people, to still, be able to help people. And I remember when I was an undergraduate, one of my friends mentioned, I was like, that there's this international NGO that they're looking for volunteers. And I mean, as a medical student, I had done enough volunteering with Pro Health. We've done community health campaigns, went to communities and did all sorts of volunteering. So I had already been exposed to the volunteering. So now you would think that because I had this impairment fresh, that I'll be afraid. Yes, I was afraid. I was very worried about inserting myself into some spaces. It had started happening. I had some good experiences. I had bad experiences. I had some people who would be very upset if I'm in a space because I'm inconveniencing them. I mean,
wow.
Across the whole this thing. So, and I said, okay, I'll fill the form. I will volunteer. So I went, and I'm saying this because I want somebody to learn that a lot of times you need to put yourself out there, right, to be able to figure out things. So I didn't have all the answers. One thing, I'd gone back to school. I was like, how am I going to still express this thing? Because it was there. It was there. So I applied, filled the forms, even did the interviews because there were interviews involved, and all of that. And then immediately after that, I didn't now hear anything from them. But it was not only me that applied. One or two people that I knew applied. And then I found out that they were calling them. Yeah. They will go for training, they'll go ASEA. And, then that was when the HIV pandemic was really hitting. And then we had a lot of international donors in that space, all that funding. So it was a HIV-related program. So I now said, wait, though. Now occurred to me that this non-calling may be tied to this wheelchair that I'm using. And I said, okay. Now, again, your response, don't be reactionary. Your response is very critical in competitions. It should have been easy for me to now feel bad, the whole thing. I mean, they were calling other people, they were doing training, they were going. I was not going. So, I now went to their office on calm day like that. And I said that I wanted to see either the programs director and I'm very bold. That's another thing. Like, I'm somebody like, you can't beat me, right? Is that how you tell me? So my thought is that at least you have an answer for instead of me sitting in my space and overthinking, because I also overthink. So let's not do that to ourselves. So and I went and I said I wanted to see. They were even surprised to see me. So I now came, I now asked, and they now even allowed me to go ahead and see the country director. So I now spoke to the country director, introduced myself, told that I applied to be in the volunteer program for the INGO, and I just realized to me that months had passed and I hadn't been called on any. In fact, called to even ask, do you want to participate or do you want to, And, she was about to be diplomatic. And I thought that I needed her to please, ma, please just be honest with me so that I'll be able to know you don't need volunteers anymore or what. She now said, no. She now said, okay. That the truth is that they haven't known how to engage me. I said, what do you mean, ma? What do you mean by how? She said, because of the chair, we don't know what is too much, what is not. So I now said, okay, that's better. When you say you do not know how, I can tell you how. She now said, okay, then that's fine. And like by that same week, I had been shortlisted for a training, And I was like, call me. The best way is to call and ask, rather than just deny me of the opportunity because in your mind you're overwhelmed by you don't know how. That a lot of times you may find out that there is actually nothing else but me just attending, like there's nothing extra special. So they now shortlisted me for that first training, and the rest is history, because at the point I even became an intern, became staff, because they now saw that we're there worrying about this one is just Jackie workaholic. So what I'm trying to say is, people do things because they're not sure of how to engage with you. You may have to step out and actually go out of your way to be able to express and help and support them in being able to make sure the space is available for you. Now, that was very crucial because it introduced me to the nonprofit world. I was able to learn so much on so many fronts, programming, all sorts of things, so that I began to find expression for my purpose in that space, which is reaching out. I mean, at the point, I was in charge of the Orphans and Vulnerable Children program. So children, so it was a very pivotal experience in what I currently do today. So I now found out that it's possible for me to be able to express this purpose, but in another way. And so when I came out, I still work in other nonprofits. I still do a lot of volunteering locally, nationally, and internationally, because I found that that's a good place to express that purpose of helping people, being there for people, being a voice for people, bringing service delivery to people. And of course, in 2013, we now launched Fake Care Foundation. And 13 years later, we're still here. So
you are relentless. And I love that about you. But right now, we have a bill to pay. And when I come back, of course, we're now going to get into the challenges that, you have faced. And you keep saying that Nigeria, in the beginning, you said Nigeria is not ready. Yes?
Nigeria.
So, yes, we're going to get into that real soon.
Okay.
Because it was never just radio. It's lifestyle, it's culture, it's connection. More music, less noise, more feeling, more life. This isn't just a station. This is your rhythm. Rhythm FM, growing with you everywhere. From your very first day in secondary school, to campus dreams that kept you awake at night, to that first job interview that changed everything. From traffic on 3rd Mainland Bridge to quiet midnight thoughts under an open sky, there has always been one frequency riding with you. Rhythm 93.7 FM didn't just play music, we scored your moments. When you celebrated, we turned it up. When you stumbled, we lifted your spirit. When the nation held its breath, we stayed present, informing, connecting, caring. Across Lagos, Port Harcourt, Benin, Abuja, and every heartbeat in between.
We're here still talking about life after disability. Are you there? Indifrek, are you there? All right. So let's address Nigeria not being ready. And of course, based off of your experience, you do not only live with this disability, you also have an NGO. And I'm sure from everything that you have said, you have a wealth of experience. And 13 years later, Fake Care is still here. So let's get into it. And of course, if you can come up with possible solutions, you never know who is listening.
Okay, so I think it would be very unfair if I say what it was before is what it is now. There's been a lot of improvements with awareness, with disability sensitization across the country and subnationally, and even in state. And of course, you can see that the advancements have led to the Discrimination Prohibition Act of 2019, where finally, after a lot of clamoring, the disability community has a legal document to be able to exercise disability rights, no matter how limited it may be, or no matter how that it's very basic, however, it still exists, at least at national level, on the federal level. So advancements have been made by way of advocacy, advocating for legal rights, in country. A lot of states have domesticated. River States is still, well, we'll get there. But so we've seen some advancements. Is it where it needs to be in practice? Absolutely not. We are a country that where there are laws, then the issue now becomes implementation. So first of all, you have the challenge where there are no laws. Then you now have a challenge where there is no implementation because we have failed systems. across board, So you go to the justice system issues, you go to the health system issues, you go to the education system issues. So what advocates understand is that advocacy is not a sprint. So it's not like you do a 100-meter dash and then get to the end. People were there before you and they were fighting. People will be here after you. We'll still be fighting about something. So the most important thing is to not be quiet, especially in any space you find yourself. I always tell a lot of persons with disabilities when we're doing capacity building programs, because one of the things that FACE really invests in or does is to build the capacity of others to be able to speak for themselves. Why? Because at the end of the day, if one person understands their rights and is able to speak to issues as they see it, they can leave a place better off than when they met it. And this has been the case. You see people going into their workspaces and they're able to do self-advocacy. You see a few persons going to a space, they're able to do peer advocacy. So collective action, all sorts of, all the different levels. Why? Because they are better equipped to be able to be strategic in their engagement with the different systems. Now, Nigeria is not ready. Because
I'm sorry. Every time you say that, I just laugh. It's how you say it, but yeah, let's get into it.
Right, because of this lack of political will, right? We're heavy on the political scenario. Everything is kind of determined by who is in power and who is not in power. You only make any form of advancement if the person who has the seat of power has any inclination towards the cause or the issue that you have framed. When you don't find that person in power, we take the back seats. And that would say has been the case in River State. River State is a clear case study for that kind of belief system or that system, because for the past, before this regime, the other regime, 8 years, we saw a government that was not people-centered, but was rather project-centered, right? It was project. So a lot of things was around structures and buildings and roads, but not people. And it affected the disability rights movement, because all of a sudden, at least in River State, where no matter what happens, there was even at the point, there was even an office like the SSE on disability affairs. That office does not exist currently.
Wow.
So there were things that, so it was like a journey. There was a movement towards where, okay, we can begin to see that River State is among the states, like Lagos State, that will have a disability agency,
Hello, are you there?
Things like that. Yeah, but it kind of really then, it took a...
Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
So it kind of really took
I'm sorry. So we have 2 more minutes.
Right. Oh no.
Yes, I know, right? I've not even scratched this.
Okay. Well, you see, I talk so much, right? So
No,
it's
good.
Come on, we're talking to you. No, so okay. So what I'm going to say is this, right? Disability is part of the life cycle, right? It's part of the journey. People have an impairment at birth. You can have it acquired as a teen, with young adults. But somehow, in the course of this life, except you're not going to be old, you will meet it somewhere. So let us begin to think system strengthening that is inclusive for everyone. You must not be touched, affected by an impairment before you do something about it. Understanding that the citizenry is diverse and dynamic, and everybody has a right to education, to health, to be able to access all of the services available, and the person does not need to fight to be able to access it. So, as we wrap up in this next 1 minute, to the government, whether we are transitioning or wherever it is we are now, because it looks as if we're just there, and do something to make River State even more inclusive across board. Let's think system strengthening. Let's think budgeting. Let's think about inclusion, not just specialized care. Specialized is good, where you do disability-centered programs. But think about existing programs and just make sure that they are inclusive. To the person that is without a disability, but is affected in one way or the other, whether it's by having a child with disability, a parent with a disability, or somebody with disability. There are a few things that you can begin to do to ensure that the person in your life is better off. Be kind. Kindness. It's not easy, I'm telling you. You can start with some kindness. And then the other thing is, don't do what we call protective exclusion. Especially parents, allow your child to explore life as other children. Don't overprotect that child now becomes too dependent, and then we now get tired of taking care of the child. So give that child the same opportunities as other children. Allow your parents, allow your sibling with disability to still experience life as it were. Now, to society as a whole, while we are shouting on government and saying, oh, do this, do that, you as a person, you have a space of authority. Make your space of authority inclusive. You have a shop, make it inclusive. You have a business, be inclusive. Like, it can start with you. It starts with us. And finally, that I can go away. To persons with disabilities out there who may be facing one challenge or the other, you heard my voice and you heard a small part of my story. Settle within yourself that as everybody here is on this earth, you too, you're here. And you are justified to be here. So don't allow anybody to make you feel like you just came to work out with everyone, follow pass. You're just follow pass, or you're just escorting people. Occupy your space. Take it one day at a time. Have goals. Don't be sad, or don't feel guilty about having dreams and goals, and feel free to pursue them. Right.
All right. Thank you so much, Indifraka. Thank you for sharing not just your story, but also, the work that you're doing to make the world a little more accessible and inclusive for other people. I think one thing this conversation reminds us of is that sometimes life changes the plan, but it doesn't take away your purpose. Thank you for spending this time with us here. This has been Dear Louie on Rhythm 93.7 FM. Everyone have a great evening, and bye for now.
One rhythm, one sound, one family. And now, beyond borders, streaming across continents, connecting Nigerians in the diaspora and global listeners searching for the sound of home. We didn't just grow, we grew with you. Through weddings and wins, through heartbreaks and hustle, through late nights, early mornings, and everything in between. Because it was never just radio. It's lifestyle, it's culture, it's connection. More music, less noise, more feeling, more life. This isn't just a station. This is your rhythm. Rhythm FM, growing with you everywhere. From your very first day in secondary school to campus dreams that kept you awake